Punters, how's it going? This is CueBall's being Rambles, episode 28. Nearly at the big 3-0. Today, on my show, I have somebody, obviously like I always do. He's a wrestler. He's an actor. He's a mixed martial artist. He's a bodybuilder, and he's also a stuntman. I give you the former three-time Welsh Wrestling Champion, the Machine Titan.
Hey, I'm doing.
He's a big guy. Right. So, how you been?
I've been good, thanks. I've been enjoying my time off. Obviously, with the strange times we've got ahead, so I haven't wrestled. Been coming up to about 10 months now. I tore my bicep back in December, so I've been out of action since then. And obviously, then COVID hit, and then I've been out ever since. So it's the most time I've had off in 10 years.
Wow, good hell. 10 months doesn't sound a lot, but you know, it is. It really is.
It is. I mean, there was times where, you know, I was having like 2 hours sleep for 3 weeks, you know, constantly going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And I'm glad they did it, but at the time, you know, if it wasn't for caffeine, I wouldn't have done it.
Good old caffeine, eh? So, are you happy to begin with the questions?
Go for it.
Right. So, I'm going to ask you every piece. See, this is why I mess up all the time, but oh well. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody because everybody's got a unique story. So, how and why did you get into the wrestling business?
Like most of us, clearly a wrestling fan. I'm a little bit older than most, so I was the Warrior Hogan generation. WrestleMania 6 sticks in mind, obviously. There, to me, that was like Superman v Batman. You know, those two things colliding. It was amazing. You know, watching the match back, very simplistic match, but you know, when I was a kid, that was amazing. You know, I just loved it. Yeah. Followed wrestling for many years. Probably fell out of it between 14 to 16, maybe a bit longer. As soon as you discover girls, you know, that's it. Wrestling's gone. And then kind of fell back there in around about 2000. Started watching it again, and it was around about 2008. I began my wrestling training, and that's all thanks to a mean Tommy Dean. I think he kept pestering me. When I was working the door in Coolers, he would always mention it and stuff like that. And then I bumped into him in random places. I think the last time was when I was shopping, and he said, look, you know, you should go to training. You know, you've got shape on you. You know, you do really well. And he said, I'll speak to Cayman and tell him you're coming down. So headed down to Canton in Cardiff, it was. Met all the guys. Really strange environment, all shapes and sizes. I'm trying to think who was there the first time. Scouse was there. Hitch was there. I think Mike Bird was there. I'm pretty sure Mark Andrews was there, and Gavin Flash Morgan. So just training with those type of guys, and then it progressed on for a while. I was put out of action for a while, and then I came back and I was training with a company called Pure Catch then, which was under Matt Vaughan and Darren Goss. From there, then I pretty much tried to wrestle as much and as everywhere as I could. And from there, then.
Nice. So, you know, you trained with some of the guys who are actually in WWE NXT UK now, which is awesome. You know.
Yeah. I trained. I went from there. I mean, I trained not only with Pure Catch. I trained with Dragon Pro as well. So Pure Catch ended after about a year. And then I went with Dragon Pro, and obviously all the guys in Dragon Pro, most of them are in the NXT. So you've got Ed Dennis, Flash Morgan, Mark Andrews, Pete Dunne, I think, was in training with us a few times as well. Mike Bird, Danny Jones. You know, most of these guys, if not all of these guys, are on WWE UK, and very fortunate to work with them. And they were a great bunch of kids, really good. Mark Andrews, love him. Hitch, one of the nicest guys in wrestling. Just a good bunch of boys, and I'm glad they are where they are now. They deserve it.
Yeah, definitely. So next question is who, I think maybe it was Hogan and Warrior, who was your biggest influences like during your first couple of years of wrestling?
Yeah, it started off as Hogan and Warrior. I was more of a Warrior fan. I was a Hulkamaniac for a bit, and then I switched to Warrior, and I followed him for a while. And then when I got back into wrestling, it was Triple H. He was the one that caught my eye, so I was just back flicking through TV. I come across Triple H, spitting water over himself, massive guy in shape. I was like, who's this? You know, and watched it, and I just always think he's an amazing heel. I've always liked Triple H's work. You know, just for me, it was fun to watch. And if you know, I don't imitate him. You know, there's no imitation of him. Just Triple H would probably be one of the ones that influenced me back into wrestling. And then The Rock, Stone Cold, progressed. I'm not really following wrestling right now, if I'm honest. So I hear a few names, especially when you know some of the boys that are in there. It kind of becomes a bit weird to. I will watch their stuff, you know, obviously to catch see what they're doing. Like Mark Andrews, some of his stuff is amazing, but I don't really. I'll be honest, I don't watch much wrestling at all now. Really
I think there's too much wrestling nowadays to be able to keep up with anything. So obviously you've got WWE, you got AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's loads.
It's just was way easier. I mean, I think the last time I was watching wrestling was probably 2007, maybe. Was probably the last. I will flick through it and watch random bits and pieces here and there. You know, if someone mentions a match, and I will definitely sit there and watch it. But I think now, like a WrestleMania, I kind of just pick out the matches that I've heard are. So you know, you want to watch, pick that one out, pick that one out. It's all on YouTube. It's all on the network. It's not like it used to be. You had to swap VHS tapes. That's the generation I am.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I used to do as well. To be fair, but yeah. So your time training. So obviously you said you was on the board, and then me and Tommy Dean came up to you and said, "Get your backside the Cayman's Wrestling Academy." So what was it like? What was it like training for the first time?
My background is jiu-jitsu, traditional jiu-jitsu. So I had a red belt in that, and a bit of kickboxing, a bit of boxing. So the bumps was quite simple to me because all they were breakfalls. So I could understand that quite easily. I just translated it. All it was in jiu-jitsu was we would protect ourselves a little bit more, where obviously in wrestling it's kind of more of a make the sound and, you know, that kind of stuff. So that was quite easily. The actual wrestling itself took a while for me to get. I just didn't understand the sequences, and there's certain bits I just didn't get, and there was no sort of like beginner's class back then. You kind of walked in and kind of caught where that point was, and at that point they're doing a lot of chain wrestling, which to me was just locks and stuff, where I would deliberately put that lock on to make them tap. So I was learning not to try and wrench their arms off as I'm doing it. Then they would eat, relax. So it took a while. I probably learned more in Dragon Pro, if I'm honest. I did learn a lot about Celtic, because it was Celtic then. I didn't really, a little bit, but not as much as I'd like to. Pure Catch I picked up quite a bit. Dragon Pro was really working with those kind of guys, is where I developed a style, if you want to put it that way. And then that went on to when I wrestled with Alan under his guidance. And then it was like night and day. It was like night and day. Working for every promotion to working for Alan was something totally different. I mean, you've got Alan will look at you and have a vision in his head of how he wants you to be. And for the first 2 weeks he had me on tour, he sat there and watched me, and it was the most nerve-wracking thing of my life, because I'd come back and he'd say, right, didn't like that, didn't like this, like that, less of this, more of that, do that. Okay. And that was like 2 weeks. And then slowly as well, as I'm learning and working with different people, they will give you their bits and pieces of information. And it's where you kind of put that persona, that character that you are together. And without those people, I wouldn't have been able to do it or be here right now. Alan's an amazing guy to work for. And he will know, you've got to look at it as if you're working for a promoter, you might think about how you want to do something, but it's that guy's choice. He's the one that pays you. He's the one that wants it. So regardless if you agree with it or not, you've got to do a job, you know. And sometimes the promoter's right, and maybe sometimes the wrestler's right. And they go, look, you know, I did say it, but you know, we've got to do what you do. End of the day, he's the boss. Do as you're told.
Yeah, definitely. you know, you've been quite successful in Welsh wrestling. You've held their main title 3 times. So you must be doing something right. Yeah,
Huge part of it is I was very fortunate. So everyone, when I started wrestling, my end game was never to get to the WWE. There was no WWE UK when I started, so it was to get to the WWE or to get to TNA. I think it was the next big company at the time. I'd just become a father. I didn't want to miss my daughter growing up, so it was to wrestle as much as I possible at the best company I could possibly reach. And when I looked around Wales, that was Welsh Wrestling. They put on more shows than everybody else, best venues, biggest crowds, and some of the best workers were all there. You know, again, most of the WWE UK guys all worked for Alan, and that's T-Bone as well. A lot of the guys in World of Sport, they've all worked for Alan as well, and they all know who Alan is. So it shows what kind of promoter he is. I mean, averagely for Alan, I think before my bicep tear, I was doing 130 shows a year for him, 140. You know, no promotion can say they do that many. And that's where I wanted to be. I went in at, I got pushed quite hard in other companies because of how I looked. So I go into a company and I kind of be straight away at that type of top of the card. Or with Alan, I came in and no, I'm down here, and I had to work my way up. And I should be down there because I really didn't. I was green as grass. I didn't know half of what I should have known. I was pushed too fast, and I needed to be molded. And it was these guys that molded me into who I am now. Little things like listening to the crowd. I never understood that till I started working for Alan, and he would say, right, listen to the crowd. You'll know when to come up. You'll know when to do this. And I never got that. Never got that until I started working for Alan. And being in the ring with guys that could teach me that, like Kay Callis, Big Grizz, Bolt, you know, most of the WWE UK crew, Hitch, you know, all these guys telling you, no, Dog, you know, God, Big Dog's been there since transatlantic wrestling. So learning off all of them sometimes blew my mind. I'm sitting there and I'm going, I have no idea. They're calling stuff and trying to remember stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, and you get through it. And then you learn to relax. The biggest thing you can ever say is to relax out there. And once you start relaxing and enjoying it, you know, it makes such a difference. And the crowd knows it as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy to think when you first start out, you know, you're doing your bits and training. It's crazy to think that you think you know it. You know, you think you know everything it needs to know, but it takes sometimes for somebody to actually come up to you and help you. Yeah. Realize, actually, I don't need to be doing all these flips and tricks and all that. I've always said less is more.
It's getting the meaning right. A lot of people think doing less, you got to make less mean more. I think that was the Samoa Joe quote, and he said that some people are lazy and they say that going, if you can make something little mean something, you're doing something right. And I learned that in working camp shows, especially in Treco Grey. They brought, during, it was like 2 years ago, we had an American guy come over, and they don't have the camps in the States. It's alien, so he thought it was amazing. So I was working him the first time he came over, working in Treco Bay, maybe 1,200, 1,400 people there. Locking up, the crowd would go mental. They already know you there. I'm established there. I've been there a million times. You know, they know me. So I get a reaction as soon as I walk out. And he was amazed by that, you know, because obviously they don't really get that unless it's a regular place. So, and we locked up, and I think I just punched him, and I got a pop. And he just looked at me and went, do you know in the States, he said, I would have done about 10 flips and some moonsaults to get that reaction, and then I just did a body slam, and I got a pop, and he was just, his mind was blown. He was like, so little means so much out here. And I went, it's how you build up to it. I think I did a spot where literally I will just be calling this punch. I've not hit the person, I'm just going, try to punch him, and they're going, yeah. Finally I punch him, pop. So it's making less mean more, but also at the same time not being lazy. So you do the big matches when they're needed. If you're first out there, don't steal the spots. You know, your job is to warm the crowd up, teach them how wrestling works. This is where you're gonna cheer. This is where you're gonna boo. I'm the good guy. That's the bad guy. And that's your job to establish that. It's not to woo them with all these different moves. Second match, you're keeping them there. When you get that main event one, that's where they do the stuff. That's where they're doing. We got Kay going for it. We got Steve going for it. Or me going with Grizz. So that's where you start building that bigger cake. The first match, just warm up, and you get. I think most promotions ain't getting that. That first match is just a warm up act. Should still be good. You still be putting your stuff in there, but you know, it doesn't have to be Shawn Michaels v Undertaker. It shouldn't be that kind of. Save that for the end. Leave that. If you did everything at the start, what are the boys going to do at the end?
Yeah, I agree. You do need to build the show up. You know, obviously, like you said, you know, you go out there, you work your butt off. You work your Sorry about that.
That'll be all right. We'll let that one go.
Apologies if anybody watching that. My apologies. You work your genitals off, okay?
Yeah.
I think you lost track of thought now. That's my bad.
About doing spots and matches. But working for Alan, as I said, working for Alan, he knows what he wants anyway. So when you work for Alan for a bit, you know what he wants. So when I'm put with like a guy that's come from outside, maybe he'll come up with some crazy stuff, and I say, we're not doing that. Alan won't like it. Let's not go. I think I did one in Swansea. So we're going for the match, and he said, right, what I'll do is I'll go up to the crowd, I'll grab a chair. I went, no, you're not getting no chair. Alan won't like it. Oh, right. Well, we'll do this. No, Alan won't like that. His boys know what Alan wants. And he knows what, sometimes we get it wrong. We don't 100% get what he wants, and we think we're doing right, but at the end of the day, we know when there's kind of certain things Alan wouldn't want on his show. And as I said, the buck stops with him, but also at the same time, he's always got this vision of what he wants, and this is the reason why he's where he is. He's one of the top promoters in the UK. Very few people can say that they're purely a wrestling promoter. You got him, you got Dixon, obviously you got the other, like the Progress and those other promotions, but Alan consistently puts on the most shows, and every time I've worked from every year, those shows have increased. And I think when I started working for Alan, I was still working for other promotions. I think I was working a bit for Dragon Pro. I tried and set bookings of a place. I think maybe I worked Celtic a few times.
You worked for me as well.
I think you kind of finished just as I started for Alan. I think it was a little bit of a lap over, wasn't there? Not much. They were a lot of fun, the Tewkesbury. But funny enough, the most merchandise I ever sold at a show was a Tewkesbury show. I don't know what it was.
What can I say? I'll put you over.
Well, we can't sell merchandise at Alan's shows, but then it's perfectly understandable. Alan does very good merchandise. So if I was to put my products out there, it would take away from Alan's earnings. So I do all my stuff online, and they're doing well. They're still going. The shirts I've had to do. I think maybe 10 for 11 orders of shirts. So, and obviously I give them out during the birthday parties and stuff like that. And that was a random thing I came across as well, the birthday parties.
But it seems to be working.
It works. It works. It was just making another way of making an income from this. So, if I was able to, the idea of it is to make as much money as possible doing something that I enjoy, and it's great going to a birthday party, turning up, and the kid not believing. They look at me as like John Cena, as weird as hell. Like, they turn up and they give you that sort of like superstar feeling, and they're just so happy for you to be there. And sometimes you just want to sit there and show you the wrestlers there for the birthday. I've had some random ones. I think one had me painted green and dressed up as the Incredible Hulk, because his two favorite things was me and the Incredible Hulk. That was a fun one. That was. There was a lot of green paint to wash off afterwards as well.
Yeah, I bet your shower went all green as well, didn't it? I can imagine.
Yeah, they had to clean it up.
Yeah. No, but like you said with your merchandise, everything you're doing right now seems to be going really well for you. Obviously, when I went out wrestling, I still followed everything you was doing, and it was working then, it's still working now. So continue what you're doing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's all led into everything. Everything I do is physical based. So if we want to go from like stunts to the acting, everything is how I look and what I'm able to do. And if it wasn't wrestling, I wouldn't have gone into the acting and the stunts. It kind of fed into each other quite nicely. So everything I do I owe to not just my body, but to wrestling in a way. Everything, acting, modeling, anything I've done will step back. Before wrestling, I'd done none of it. So it's all come from that. And you've got to work your way up. So, working the smaller promotions, everybody does it. That's just what you do. I enjoyed working some of them. I enjoyed working for you. I enjoyed working for Celtic. There's some good memories there, Celtic. And pretty sure I'm still the Celtic heavyweight champion. So that would make me the longest running one. I haven't lost it. I think Cayman's got the belt back. So
yeah, I think Cayman's got one of the belts.
Yeah.
But either Mark Trimble or Bassi or Cayman will probably pipe up saying, about the titles. So there we go.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I worked for them. But obviously, I moved on. I worked Dragon Pro as well, and got to work with a lot of those boys. And a lot of the boys said there's matches there with me working Mark Andrews, Flash Morgan, and then went on obviously to where I wanted to be was Welsh, and then working guys like Cade. Cade's amazing. Pushes you, same as Grizz, and I worked T-Bone there as well. James Mason. Just so much fun working with James Mason. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a fun ride. I've enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad it's worked out for you. And hopefully after this whole COVID lockdown stuff, you'll continue to have your success what you were having now. If that made any sense, then I can't remember if it did. I don't know. So anyway, right. So this is my favorite part of the show now, where we'll just go to the intro. CueBall's cutouts. On the day somebody comes on, I find a picture, whether it be embarrassing, funny, nostalgic, means something to them. I don't know. I just go out and find it. So today, I have found this one. It's not embarrassing. Don't worry, because I wouldn't want you to spear me again. Yeah.
Would I do that?
Yeah, you would. You have done.
Oh.
Let's get a bit of description about this then.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was at the premiere of Adrian's documentary / feature film, which I was able to work on. And that was at the Blackwood Cinema, Market Cinema. I didn't see the final cut till then, and to meet Adrian, we really got on. I met Adrian, I believe it was maybe 6 months before this photo was taken, and he came backstage to a Cumbrawn show.
Yeah.
And he immediately took to me. He could see I was a bodybuilder. He was a bodybuilder as well, so we instantly got on. He was talking to me, and he came back at the end of the show. He said, "Tell us how much you enjoyed it." I mean, him kept in contact from there every so often. He'd message me and he'd ask how the bodybuilding was going, and he gave me a little bit of feedback. And then I went and trained with him, I believe, last year in June, me and Kid Cymru. And every so often he'll comment on my stuff and he'll send me a little message. But at this premiere, I was two weeks away, I think, maybe from the Welsh Championship bodybuilding show. And I just done the NABBA. Not long done the NABBA. I think this is why my tan is so glowing right here.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
but it was a good night. It was the first. I caught up with the NXT boys, Mark Andrews, Alan was there, Stevie Starr, the entire most of the Welsh locker room was there. Even Bolt was there. It was a good night, and I was glad to be part of that. It was very proud. It's on Amazon Prime now, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on.
Just for the sake of people who are watching, what was this? What was the name of this film?
It was called. Oh, I can't actually remember. Pretty. You ain't mighty beautiful. You ain't pretty or something like that. It was.
It's similar band,
yeah, I just called it the Adrian story. That was the working title. I was under it, and I didn't realize how much I was in it until I actually watched it on the screen, on the big screen, and I was like, oh god, they cut a lot of me on this.
That's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah, it was great to talk about him, and it was great to be part of that. I like to be somebody that never says no to an opportunity, regardless of being tired. So I think some of this stuff I did maybe on a few hours sleep. Never miss an opportunity. Always take an opportunity if it's there for you. If it goes, I'm tired, don't make an excuse. You're going to regret it. Sometimes I made a mistake. I've done some stuff really, which I haven't had what I wanted from it, but I've done some stuff which led on to other stuff, especially with the filming. One thing leads to one thing, and that went really well. So I literally, by saying, "Do you know what, I won't say no to this. I'm gonna." I've done night shoots. I've gone straight from wrestling straight to filming. I've gone straight from filming straight to wrestling. A couple of hours sleep, get back up. Could be training, back on the road. You know, rather than miss that opportunity, I'll just have a bit of caffeine.
Nice. So some might say that you are like the Welsh Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
I've heard it. I'm would I say I'm the poor man's version of him? I don't like saying no to opportunities. I mean, I don't want to look back and go, oh, I should have done that. And maybe one or two things I didn't do, which I wanted to have done. And also at the same time, I've done a few things which I really didn't need to do, but I didn't know at the time. So I'd rather take that chance. But like, just like the filming, if I hadn't said yes to this one tiny, stupid little internet thing, I wouldn't have able to have done the cool stuff that I've done now. And I'm quite fortunate. I've done anything major, but I've had a named role in a feature, a Viking feature. I've worked with Ross O'Hennessy, and he was on Game of Thrones, and we're friends. We've trained together. There was a studio called Tornado, and I believe Ross was thinking about doing a wrestling-based film, and I'd heard that, so I thought I'll go over, introduce myself, and we'll go from there. So we did, and we ended up really getting on well. We like the same age, we like the same bodybuilders. You know, we're talking about the golden age of bodybuilding: Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane. And we just sat there short, and we ended up getting on. And I found out he didn't live too far from me. And every so often he'd say, do you want to train? And I would say, yeah, what time? And he would say, 6 a.m. Okay. So I always made sure that I was there before him. So word for advice, if he's trying to impress somebody, if you turn up on time, you're late. Turn up 10, 15, 20 minutes before that person. You be there waiting for that person. So whenever Ross turned up, I was sitting outside in the car waiting for him. And I did that on most stuff I'd done. I'd always be there a good half an hour before I was supposed to be. You know, I hate lateness. It's one of my pet peeves.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. With anything, I'm the same. You know, I'll make sure I'm always early. It can go far, can't it? In anything, not just wrestling. In real life, it can go far.
Yeah, anything. You should. I just don't like lateness. You know, if you, there's been a few guys that said they want to train with me, and I'll be sitting there waiting for them. I'm like, you've asked to train with me, you should be here before me, you know. And you could always tell the ones that are want it or interested, because they'll be there or say, oh, you know, pick me up or I'll pick you up. But a few times I've been sitting there and I've been sitting outside the gym and I'm waiting. Oh, I'm on my way, 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. And I know they won't come back the next time. So, you know, they'll train once with me, they'll do that, they'll realise it's not easy, and that'll be it. I won't see them again. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be situations where you are late. There's situations where we've rocked up to Alan's show literally as doors open, but you can't always control it. You know, there's going to be traffic. There's going to be instances. I mean, even Alan has done it. Sometimes it does happen, but most of the time I'd be at Alan's show 45 minutes before doors open, minimum.
You know, it is what it is sometimes, and it can't help it, like you said.
It happens sometimes. Everyone's going to be late. It happens there and now, but lateness is probably my pet peeve.
Yeah, like I said, I'm with you, man. I hate it myself. Right, so next question, we're going to talk about your time doing MMA, jiu-jitsu. So let's have a... Obviously, I don't know much about it, so, you know.
Well, when I was younger, from about 17, I did traditional jiu-jitsu, which is standing-based rather than the grappling stuff, which is on the floor now, BJJ. So I got to a red belt on that, and in between this, I was doing a bit of boxing, a bit of kickboxing. Nothing major. And I probably started doing MMA, it was just after wrestling training. An MMA gym opened with a guy that I used to work the door with. So I messaged him and said, I was right if I come along. Yeah. And I kind of did it as well to prove, obviously with wrestling, they believe that we're all fake and that we're not really able to fight. So I kind of went down there to prove a point with a lot of the boys down there because they knew I was a wrestler. And I gained their respect through sparring with them and getting beaten up with them. Some hiding. You do something called body conditioning. You basically stand there and let someone kick and punch you, and there's no way around it. You just and you get toughened up to it. And being a wrestler, you're used to it, but at the same time, these are boys who are really lacing them in, and train with a lot of Polish boys, and they don't have 50%. They just have, I'm either going to take your head off or get close to taking your head off. You know, and there's some tough guys in there. And I was doing MMA for about 8 years. I never got the opportunity to fight. The 2 fights I was put forward for, both times the fighter pulled out or something happened. So I got disheartened that I had trained that hard, that long. Man, I think I trained 10 weeks, 10 weeks hard training. I got my weight under 95, and I was ready. I was sharp. I was ready for it. And then to be told the last week before the fight it was off, it just disheartened me. And I thought, you know what? It's one thing left on my bucket list to do, but at the same time, I had so much fun training with those boys, and some of them are going to be in the UFC. They're really good. Aiden is another kid I trained with, and one day he's going to be in the UFC, no doubt, if he just, you know, gets off his butt and works a little bit harder. But I had a great time there, and I earned their respect, and it was the most thing I wanted from that, was to be able to go in there and go, you might be a wrestler, but you know, even when they had other guys coming in and saying, "Oh, wrestling being fake," they go upstairs and spar with him then, and see how fake you think it is at the end of that. So I got there, you know, and they were hard men. There were some tough guys there, and the Polish. Oh, there was one, Lucas. He just would see the size of me and automatically think he could batter me. He would just let loose because that's what he was conditioned to do. And I just stood there, and he was doing leg conditioning. It was just him kicking me in my leg constant, and it's the worst pain ever. I'd probably punched in the face all day long, maybe kicked in the legs, and the boys knew that. And he managed to deaden my leg totally, and I couldn't move it. I had to get into the car and kind of bend it myself like this, and get in the car. And I was going on tour the day afterwards with Alan. First match, I was struggling to move it. I did something, and my leg instantly loosened up. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, this is good. Got to the back, took my knee pad off, and my leg was black. And I'm talking black. So clearly he had done something underneath, and it had been released during the match. It must have been blood, and my leg was just black. And that will always stick with me. So I enjoyed it, man. I got to BJJ as well. I did a bit of that. It just got on top of me at the end. I was doing way too much, you know. At one point I was training 3 to 4 days MMA, 2 days jiu-jitsu, weights 5 times a week, and wrestling. So there's only so much your body can take. You know, you've got to stem it back. And I managed to reel it back till last year. I was training MMA once a week, twice, mostly sparring. I like to spar. I still do my weights 5 times a week. But that stuff there's only so much your body can take. And I think most of the guys involved in MMA will tell you that you've got to step back a bit. You know, your body can't do it forever. You can still train. You'll be able to train. You always keep your conditioning, but you know, there's only so much your body can take joint-wise as well. So
yeah, definitely. You've got to know your limits as well, haven't you? Especially everything you do loads. Crazy. So let's talk about your time acting. Obviously, like you said a minute ago, from wrestling, you was able to find acting. So how did you actually even get into acting in the first place?
It's one of the really random things where you say I don't like saying no to stuff, and I think Alan knows that. So he's always sent me, if it's something he wants me to do, he'll send me off to do it. He sent me to speak to schools once about anti-bullying. He kind of had me with that one. I was on the way to the school. It was in Bridgend. It was before a show. And I assumed it was just going to be a class. And then I was speaking back and forth to the teacher. She said, I'll get all the forms ready. And I went, all the forms? How many kids are there? So I messaged out, I went, Al, how many kids are going to be in this? And he went, I think it's the whole school. You're talking like 700 to 800 students. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And it went all right. And I was talking about anti-bullying. I did research it a bit so I could put some stuff in there. But it ended with me bench pressing the kids. I don't know how that came about, but there was the kids go, could you lift me up? Could you lift me? And I ended up doing that. Don't know if the teachers agreed with it, but the kids loved it. So I said, don't say no to anything, and Alan knows that. And one day he rang me and said, I've had some guy filming, and he's looking for a wrestler to do something on there. And apparently it was Mark Andrews that was supposed to have worked with him, but he was doing something else. So I was again, oh, go on, I won't say no to this. Let's go and have a go. So I went down there and met the director and the fight choreographer, and he said, right, I'm going to give you this fight to remember now. So I'm sitting there going, all right, it's going to be complicated. And he went, right, I'll take you through a step-by-step. Punch. Okay, yeah. Another punch. I got that. Kick, yeah. And another punch. You practice that? I went, no. I went, I can remember that. And he was like, what do you mean you can remember that? I went, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. So I ended up remembering it. And there was a few bits and pieces in there, which I remembered faster than the fight choreographer. He kept looking at me going, how do you know it? I was like, I'm a wrestler. It's nothing. This isn't anything to me. And so I worked on that. They had me dressed up. I think it was in a Centurion outfit, beating up a girl in a very questionably small costume, dressed as a superheroine. Tasha, she was the first one I worked with. Worked a few with them, and then as I was on those, I decided, okay, I'm gonna see where this goes. I'm gonna go with it and try not to say no to anything. And I met a stunt coordinator on there, and he recommended me for something else. And then I met another person on there, and he recommended me for something else. That took me to a company called Tornado Studios, which were based up near Swansea. And they did a lot of like Viking films and a lot of medieval films. And I did a Viking film with them, like behind the scenes stunt type stuff. When I say stunts, it's just little bits and pieces really. And then I went from there to a front camera role in front of them, doing a big pit fighting scene with the main lead, which was a lot of fun. It was my first time being on like a big typeset stuff. You had like multiple cameras, there's a drone, they had costume. It was like loads of stuff going on. It was my first time underneath that, and that was an experience for me. And I always make a point of being as nice as possible to everybody, no matter who they are or what they're doing. And I think that sticks with people because the directors always used to remember me, and most of the time would call me back in to do stuff. I never really had to chase it. I was very fortunate. I'd have an email off someone and they would say, right, this writer's written a part. That was my first Horizon. It wasn't a big part, you know, it's just my first name one. And I was like this prison inmate, but he was antagonist to the main lead. I was always the bad guy, always the bad guy. I'm never going to be the, not the pretty boy. That's not my job. I'm the bad guy. I was told that by Ross. He said, you'll always be the henchman. He said, just accept it, work your role. So I was fortunate, and I did a few more bits after that. I think the only kind of good guy role type was something called Daddy Cool, and it was with a wig, and they had me in the 80s thing, and that was fun. I think that was my only good guys. I think most of the stuff have always been the henchman. In even the thing recently I've just filmed, just can't talk too much about. It was on the Newport transport bridge. Yep. Amazing fight scene. Again, I'm the bad guy, but you know, I've worked a few stuff with JD Knight as well. He's doing very well. Justin Sine as well. He's doing very well. They're in a very good position in the area that we're in. So Justin's doing some good stuff, and JD's very good. He's following and pretty much going to be on the stunt register, I think, from what I heard. But JD's just a character anyway, so you know, he's just got this weird look that you want to put him into stuff. I think he's mostly the bad guy as well. He's a wrestler, that's our job. So I was very fortunate, lucky, and I've had experience with stunts, and I've had experience with firearms. Picked up bits and pieces here and there. I got to meet Lou Ferringo, which for me was a big deal, obviously with the bodybuilding. I came across Ross, as I said, and he was a contact because he got me onto stuff as well. So it was all about making contacts to get me as far as possible. I haven't done a huge amount recently, but obviously with COVID, nobody has. But I've enjoyed it. So I'm on IDMB credits, and I can say I've been on TV commercials. I did a few commercials for Moves for Men, one for Sony. What else have I done? I've done through this. Obviously the stuff with Adrian Street, that was on Amazon Prime. Most of my stuff has been like Viking-based stuff. Oh, I did a World War II series that hasn't been released yet. Oh, that was so much fun. That was so much fun. Because you're an extra stunt guy with guns. I died about 20 times on that because they would put just a different thing on my head, different costume. Right, go on, off you go again. And it was a lot of fun. Running through the forest, firing a Sten gun in World War II. I got to drive a World War II Jeep in that as well, which was so cool.
And that was a beardless Titan, wasn't it?
Yeah, but to do 2 of those. So
I get that picture. I get that picture and just like stick it here so people can see your
face.
face.
Just 2. I've had to, actually no, 3 times about to do it. So the first time was on that. I turned up and they said you need to be clean shaven. I went, all right. So did that, and oh god, this is bad. Then I did it on a commercial. They had to clean shave me, and then I had to do it for a pilot episode. This was through Ross. This was actually Ross Hennessy for a series that has not been released yet, and they got me as a demon. And for that, I had to be clean shaven, and the makeup for that was horrendous. I was there at 6 a.m. They started putting the makeup on me. I think it was about 7:30, and I didn't walk on set till around about 4 or 5 o'clock. Oh, it was a lot. It was paint and layer and layer and layer, and then they stuck these claws on me, and I couldn't pee or anything. I couldn't open anything. They could feed me, and I was like this. And then they put these fake teeth in, this green blood, and it was. And again, that was mid-tour. I think it was. I think I turned back up to Alan's shows, clean shaven, just looked at me, and he went, "That needs to grow back. That needs to grow back." I went, "It will, it will." And then I told him how much I got paid for doing it. He went, "All right, I'd shave it off for that as well." So it's beardless titan isn't. It's odd. Some people like it. You get a few people right underneath and go, "Oh my god, you look so much younger," and I'm like, "I look like an egg."
Yeah. That's a couple of years back. I shaved. Obviously, I'm bald anyway.
Yeah.
Shaved my beard off because I raised a bit of money for fibromyalgia, and that was the thing. You know, at the end of all of it, I would shave my beard off. It is for a good cause, but it was horrible.
No, I didn't like it. I hated it. Didn't like it at all. Just went like that, and I went no, and I just didn't shave. I was quite lucky; it grew back quite fast. Obviously, my diet's quite good usually, so high amounts of protein help. So my hair grew back pretty fast. I think I had a full beard back in about a week and a half. Enough that I didn't look like, an egg on legs, as we call it. Yeah. But it was worth it. It was worth it for when you look back at your stuff and you get to do that cool stuff that I got the opportunity to do. It's always going to be out there. So, and a lot of my daughter's friends do follow me on various social media sites, so they could see stuff. So sometimes they go up to my daughter and say, "Oh, your dad's doing this," and she kind of look at me and go, "What?" Because she doesn't pay any attention to me. Just her dad. And I'll try and impress her. I'll send her stuff. Go, "Oh, look what I'm doing. I'm in a World War II set." "Okay, Dad." I'm like, "All right." "Oh, look at this. I'm dressed up as a Spartan warrior." "Okay, Dad." I think she was a little bit impressed with the last one I did on the bridge, on the Newport Transport Bridge, because of the fight sequence on there. So I was showing her a few bits of that, and it was the first time I got a reaction out of her saying, "Oh, this is cool." I was like, "Oh my god!" Wasn't quite sick, but it was cool. So I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah, that's the thing with kids. You try to impress them. "Oh, I'm doing this." Yeah. Oh, whatever, Dad. Whatever. Oh, cheers. Yeah. Thanks. So obviously you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Clearly. You've done a hell of a lot of stuff to do with bodybuilding, but you've done something for NABBA, which is National Amateur Bodybuilding Association. So what was different between training like bodybuilding just because and bodybuilding for an actual bodybuilding event?
I've been training from a young age, so I started lifting weights when I was 18. I'm from the generation they call Generation of Muscle. So you had guys like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Hogan, Warrior, or it was Van Damme. All of these guys were muscle. So that's how I grew up, and most of my friends grew up. So I started bodybuilding very young and always trained. I was going to do a show when I was 19, but a few things came up and I didn't get to do that show. So closely, I'm getting closer and closer to being 40, and I'm seeing people put up on social media that for their 40th they're going to Ibiza, for the 40th they're going away to Birmingham for the weekend, and all these different things, basically simply going and getting drunk. And I was like, I want to put up something different. I want to say that I've done something. So I spoke to Geff and Kid Cymru, and he sent me a few shows which were actually pretty much a week of my birthday. So he said, "Well, if you're thinking about doing it, do this." So the end game was to compete when I was 40. And I've dieted before for photo shoots and for maybe filming and stuff like that for a certain particular look. But bodybuilding, dieting for a show is so hard. The training is not too bad. Training, I push myself anyway, so I enjoy my training. it was the dieting which breaks you, and it does break you, and it's hard. And when anyone says, you know, what it takes to do that, it's the dieting part. And that was all I could think about was food. All I could think about was food.
So, what was your diet then during
My
this time?
diet was to do the NABBA. The NABBA was never planned. The NABBA was, I was always planning to do one show, and that was the Welsh Championships on the 19th of May, because I turned 40 on the 13th. So on my birthday, I had no cake, nothing nice at all. I think actually it might have been water depleting. So it was a really bad, and a lot of my friends were competing in the NABBA. And then someone said to me, why don't you give the NABBA a shot? And I was like, oh, go on then. You know, and I'd done all the dieting to the point of myself, and that my diet was literally chicken and broccoli and maybe 50 grams of rice. So my breakfast was oats, protein powder, and then chicken and broccoli, protein shake, chicken and broccoli. And then after I did the NABBA, I came across a friend who I hadn't seen for a while, and he was one of the judges. He gave me a bit of feedback, and then he said, I'll help you. And I showed him my diet. He said, right, let's change up some stuff. So my diet did change. It did get a bit more interesting, but not hugely. We chucked a salmon salad in there. So you basically I was waking up and having 5 eggs in the morning, whole eggs, and half an avocado. And then I was having a pre-workout meal, which would have been, I think I was having a protein shake, a tiny bit of carbs, and then I'd have a bit of carbs after I trained, and a protein shake, and then mince, and then it was chicken and broccoli. I had salmon. I don't like salmon. I don't like fish, but I was told, I said, right, you tell me what to eat, and I will eat it. That's why. And rice cakes if I'm lucky. I discovered rice cakes with peanut butter was my savior. And that was it. Your life is dieting, and it's hard, it's draining. Everybody else is eating normal around you. You know, your kids, they're eating McDonald's. I'm making my daughter toast. I'm on shows, and most of the boys eat clean, but every so often we get free food backstage, and I can't touch it. You know, it's me, I was competing, and so was Geffen. So he was in the same situation as me, dieting and resting and dieting at the same time. It's so hard. It killed me. I think Yeston's doing it now, Yeston Reese. He's done it as well. He was competing as well. So it's hard. And I think before I did 3 shows. So I did the NABBA, I did the Welsh, and then I did the European Championships. I did quite well at the NABBA and the Welsh. The Europeans was like going from, I don't know, Celtic wrestling to WWE. It was like you didn't stand a freaking chance. There was guys, and I just looked at the bodies around me and went, just enjoy the experience. You know, I got that far, I'd done this, as I'm going to end this journey. And it was like night and day. There was this huge black guy, and he was warming up, and I was just looking at him in awe, going, I can see every single one of the muscles in his back. And I'm watching him thinking, please don't be in my category. Please don't be in my category. And I'm looking at him, and he's warming up more. He's a French guy. He's such a nice guy as well. And I'm watching him, and they're calling us up, and then he gets up, and I went, I might just sit back down. He was in phenomenal shape. I talked to him a bit afterwards, and he lived and breathed bodybuilding, and he tried to explain this to me. He said, look, is this all you do? And I said, no, I do wrestling and this and that. And he went, look, this is my life, bodybuilding. I don't do anything else. He said, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, he said, so you're not going to beat me because this is all I do, you know? And he said, don't be disheartened. And he was really nice to talk to, a French guy. But his conditioning was great. And that's when I realized the conditioning that guys can get themselves into. You know, it was hard. The dieting was the hardest bit. I believe at one point, this is summer, June, and I'm talking about Christmas dinner, because I'm looking that far ahead of when I can eat stuff. And all I talk about is food. And anybody who was in the car, anywhere we went, I'd go, right, on my cheat day, I'm having this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, and then this. And then you've got the water loading. I think I was drinking about 12 litres of water a day. Yeah, it was constant trips to the toilet. And then you do all that water loading, and then you do a water cut. And that's quite hard. And then you dry yourself out as well. And it's a huge process to it. You learn so much. And I was very fortunate. I'd help. I was messaging Geffen pretty much every day, checking in with him, just picking his brain and asking how we kept each other going all the way through this process. So I was quite lucky to have Geffen with me, and he was with me at the NABBA and the Welsh Championship. So he was going to come to the Europeans, but I believe he had something else on, so we couldn't quite get down for that. But Geffen helped me massively during that time period, and I know he's helped Yestin a lot as well. So you had someone to bounce back off, especially when you're backstage and the other boys don't quite get that you're dieting, and your brain doesn't work. I mean, my brain's not the best anyway, and trying to remember or do a match and remember it and be able to start. It was the last show I did before I think it was the Europeans, was with Cade. And Cade, anyone who worked Cade goes. There's no in between. He wants to put a show on, and we were the main event. So we worked in Gorsainen, and I was told we got Cade, and I'd already worked a show. I'd already worked Treacle Bay, so this is the second show of the day. I'm carb depleting. I've got like nothing on me. I think I'm laying on the floor, and I've heard you and Cade, and I've kind of gone, Cade was all right. We did still. You've got people have paid to see you. You've got to put a show on. So it's not their fault that I'm dieting. We did it. It was a good match. It was a Cade match. So we did a bit, and I can remember coming backstage and literally just collapsing on, just laying there going, I'm just gone. Just nothing in me now. I think it was one of the few times I literally just showered, just went. I was just gone. And it was the journey was worth it, and it was something I wanted to get off my bucket list. So I've pretty much done everything on there, apart from an MMA fight or some kind of competitive fight. That's it. It's nice to know I've done most of it, and I've done it by the time I'm 40. So
days sorted. Yeah. Well, hopefully you do get that MMA fight that's on your bucket list, down the line. Is there any possibilities for any more bodybuilding events?
Oh, definitely. I would have done some this year. When I did the NABBA, I kind of did it half-hearted. I say half-hearted. It was never planned. So my diet wasn't leading up to that point, and I hadn't really practiced my routine, and it was my first show, and I placed top 3, and I've always thought I could have placed higher if I had known a little bit more and put a bit more into that, aiming at that show. So I wanted to go back there this year and do better at it. And there was a few other shows. They are quite close together because obviously your dieting is quite hard. You can't stay in that shape for long. So you do as many shows as possible in that small period of time. So the plan would have been this year to have done that. It was knocked out from the start with a bicep tear. So I tore my bicep back in December. So as soon as that happened, there was no chance of me competing. It's going to take me 2-3 months to recover. I'm going to lose muscle mass. My diet's going to be out the window a bit. So it was written off from there. So it just couldn't happen. But I will definitely, maybe not next year, but I'd love to go back and do a few more shows. I did enjoy the experience, and it's probably something I will dip in and out of when I'm done with wrestling. I probably would always dip out of body. I'll always train. I'll always do some kind of training. I start my day with training. I end my day with training. So I'll wake up in the morning, do some kind of cardio, and before I go to bed, I'll do some kind of exercise, maybe with the bands. I do a lot of feeder workouts. I like those. And recently I've been doing press-ups, so I mix it up. So before I go to bed, I'll do 50 press-ups. And the plan is to get to 100 press-ups. So every night before I go to bed, I do 100 press-ups. Just a nice way to start, positive way to start and end the day. So,
well, good luck, when you do decide to go back to the bodybuilding events. Good luck on them. Hopefully you'll get above where you was. Saying about your bicep injury, that's another question I want to ask you. So how did that happen, and what's the effect it had on you at the time?
My bicep tear actually happened in my day job. So I'm a gym instructor, and it was just happening there doing something. It was the weirdest feeling in the world because it just went ping and didn't really hurt. I didn't really know what was going on. My bicep was kind of down there. And I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what I've done here. I think I've torn it, but I hope I haven't, because I'm due to go on tour for Alan next week for 2 weeks and all of this. And so off I go to the hospital. tell me I've torn it. I've got to come back the following day to find out how bad, did that, and was told it was definitely going to be an operation where they drill a hole through my ulna, reattach it, and then put me in a brace. And I had to sit there for, I think about 6 or 8 weeks. I'm adjusting this brace, and I'm able to go from here to here, and then from here to there. And it was the hardest process. For the first week, maybe I enjoyed it because it was the first time I'd slowed down. So it was kind of like, oh, all right, okay, I'll watch this thing on Netflix, which everybody keeps going on about. So let's have a look what's on here. So I was watching that and relaxing, able to spend more time with my daughter, and then obviously kind of get a little bit bored because I'm used to doing stuff. So I would go to the gym and just train legs or just train one arm. Wrestling was out of the question. Couldn't obviously, so my wrestling ended with there. Didn't wrestle at all. I think maybe I done one birthday party appearance. And then the operation, I had to wait because I tore it just before Christmas on December 18th. And I didn't have the operation to the new year because there was no way I could get any, I think it was like on the 3rd or the 4th, maybe I had my operation to have it reattached. And you can't start healing until you've had it reattached. So I'm kind of sitting there waiting in limbo for 2 weeks now, wanting them to fix my arm and telling them, look, I'll go in on Christmas Day. I'll go in on New Year's Day. If you want to operate on me, I'll be there. Just tell me the time, day or night. And they were like, there's no spaces. I was very lucky as well. As with COVID hit, if I had done it during COVID, I think I'd have been waiting a lot longer. So I was very fortunate that the timing of that didn't fall at the same time as I tore my bicep, or I'd have been in a lot of worse position. But it was the weight that, and also took the healing longer because the longer they left it, the tighter the muscle got. So it retracted even more. So they had to pull it down more. And they said if I had done it, they could have had the operation the same day. It would have been very fast. But you know, it is what it is, and it was a process I had to get through. I had to change my diet. I had to get used to resting. Obviously, as well, there's a bit of muscle wastage there as well. But at the same time, I had some downtime from it. Something I didn't have at that point. I'd been 100 miles per hour for such a long time. Alan always said at some point, he said, I thought something was going to happen to you as an injury-wise because you would just be constant. You know, it was Alan's show, day job, see my daughter, filming, something else. And I would find things to do and birthday parties, and I like to be trying to do lots of stuff. And I probably did base myself a lot on the stuff that, you know, you watch The Rock and what he does all the time. And you think, you know, you want to be that successful. You want to try and do something, then you should be pushing yourself. And I did. I don't think bicep injury was anything to do with that pushing on myself, but I believe that it happened for a reason, and its reason was to give me a bit of time to slow down, reassess, and get my head back into the game.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So when everything's gone and wrestling shoots can come back, I expect you're going to be first one in that ring to spear through somebody, and then, you know,
just get back. It'd be a very strange. Well, it's going to be. I think by the time I get back to wrestling, from what I've heard, it'll be December from where shows are going. So that would probably put me out for a full year of wrestling. So it's not starting from scratch, but there's going to be a lot of ring rust. It's not going to be the same. It's going to take me a while to get back to that Titan I was in Treco Bay. Always such a fun venue to work. I'm looking forward to going back there. I mean, Treco is one of my favourite ones. Merthyr, obviously, my hometown's a favourite venue as well. But Treco Bay, they've got the screen, they've got the lighting, and it's just a lovely venue. And right now, obviously, you couldn't wrestle there anyway, with the social distancing. And we'll have to look at wrestling and how it's going to change, especially with Alan shows, because obviously a lot of crowd interaction with us. So the kids do expect us to go out and clap hands, and there's the meet and greet at the end. You know, and the kids will have to be educated. I don't know how that's even going to work. You know, when we go back, you know, if we can interact with the crowd. So I know it's one of the huge selling points of Alan shows is the kids and the parents feel that they're part of the show because they're able to interact with us and high fives, and you know, at the end they can meet us all in their photos. And so obviously this COVID changes wrestling quite a lot, really lots. You know, it's going to change the industry, but we have to find a way around it. You know,
I'm sure we will.
We will, yeah.
It's just trying to figure that bit out. So my last question for you then is, how would you like to be remembered once everything's done? When should you feel like you
by remembered by as a wrestler or as a person? That'll be interesting.
Do both. Let's do both.
As a wrestler, maybe by the boys and the fans, I like to be remembered as a hard worker, somebody that wanted to learn. I always do as much as I can, and I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed entertaining the fans, and I was able to get to where I wanted to. You know, working for Alan was always what I wanted to do, and I got there. I came in as a mid-card guy at the bottom, and I worked my way up, and my plan was to get to the top, to the point where Alan trusted me to be that guy, and he did. And that's what I'd like to remember for. I tried to work hard as I could. By people in general, I've always said that what I'd like to remember for most is being a good dad. You know, that was always something that's been very, very important to me. It's something that's shaped where I was going and what I was doing. You know, I didn't want to travel too far. I didn't want to miss that time with my daughter growing up. So I tried to do as much as I can locally, you know, and didn't try and miss my daughter growing up, because it was so important to me. And I've got a very close relationship with my daughter. We talk every day. She's been on tour with me. She's grown up with all the Welsh wrestling boys. You know, they all look after her. She's very close to Bolt of all people. You know, you'll message her back and forth, and they've got a funny relationship. And she's taken an interest that one day she would want to be a wrestler. So she did that. That would be under Alan. You know, I wouldn't quite trust anyone else with her. She's growing up around Alan. Alan's a father as well, so I know she's in safe hands. But that's the most important to me, just to be a good father that done a lot of cool stuff. So that's how I would like to be remembered.
Nice. Hopefully so that's all my questions done.
Mm-hmm.
I got one fan submitted question because of interaction, like you said, interaction. So from referee Chris Edmonds, he's one of my top fans. He's always asking questions for everybody. So what was the best and worst matches of your career? If you want to say them.
Oh, I'll say them. Start with the worst. I've got two that come straight to the top.
Don't see me. Don't see me.
No. These are me. You know, the two worst matches I've had are my fault, and one of them is against T-Bone, and it was in Pure Catch, and I had only gone from doing squash matches. I was brought in, it was squash, and then my next match is with T-Bone, and T-Bone's way of rest, I'm like, I have no idea. He called this match. I totally forgot it. I totally was caught just doing random stuff. I frustrated the hell out of him. It was bad, and it was all nothing to do with T. It was me. I think T-Bone thought I knew more than I did, and I didn't ask him of T-Bone. I shouldn't have. I said, look, I don't get it. I don't. And he did say to me, look, if you don't understand him, don't be afraid of saying it. He said, you're not going to learn. And he tried to give as much feedback from that as I could. And I did. That was my first thing of learning. And it was then the next match was with James Mason in Welsh, and I believe it was not long after I came in. Again, I did a lot of squash matches, and I worked with Big Dog. I think I did one with Cade, and then you went with James Mason, and I was too scared to say to James I didn't quite know what he would want, and he talked about the match like twice. He went, right, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, and we'll do that. Okay. I kind of went, oh, okay. He came back, said the same thing again, and just walked away, and I've gone, I have no idea what I'm doing. So that was another one. Again, all me. Clearly, James come back and he said, to be honest, pal, he said, size you. He said, I thought you knew it. I went, no. He said, I'm quite new. All right then. So he taught me through a lot of stuff. And James, I know, said to Alan, look, I think you've made a mistake having this guy here. And Alan had that said to him by a few people. And I think James came back a year later on, or maybe a bit longer later on than that. And he said, you've improved so much. He said, and he told me, he said, I did say to Alan, I don't know why he brought you in, but you've learned a lot. And he picked up on a few little things, right? Do this, do that. And James now he's quite happy to work with me. And we'll always, you know, I've worked with him. I've worked with Foxy a lot as well. Those sort of all-star boys. And all of that, all of the learning to working with such good people in Welsh. I'm very fortunate. I've worked with Cade, Grizz, and these are the type of guys that will teach you how to put that main event match in, you know, that kind of level of match in and out of stuff, and that, you know, Grizz can change it there and then. Kay can do the same. Sometimes I'm frustrated because they are changing it, and I'm frustrated that they expect me to do so much, but they've pushed me, and I always thank the pair of them for that, Cade and Grizz. And then I've learned a lot of showmanship from working Bolt, the model, Sterling Joe, all these type of people I've learned. And then I've again worked a lot with the NAT boy Hitch. At the same time, you've got Hitch, and he's prepared to. You'd think that Hitch wouldn't want to do certain things now because he's at this level. No, he still wants to do the big dog stink face, and he's such a nice guy, and they've already there. And same with anyone that comes into Alan's shows. And I'm fortunate to have worked with them all. I've learned bits from everybody, and that's what's helped me push me along. Again, as well with Alan. Alan will still come back and say stuff about matches now and go, didn't like this, didn't like that, and that's his job, and he molds that person to the character they want, and he's got those characters he wants in his show, and his show's recognizable. I believe he'll put a poster up and people will know, oh, that's Big Dog, oh, that's CV Star, oh, that's Titan, and he can interact and change those, Magico and Kid Cymru, and he's kind of got established himself as that, and he's got his roster of, as I think I've heard it before, wrestling's like a circus, and you need all these different characters to keep him entertained, and with all shapes and sizes. If you keep sending the same looking person out all the time, what's the difference between this guy? I mean, if we say on Alan's show it starts me and Grizz, you've got Grizz walking out, the guy's a freaking bear, he's a big dude. Do people want to get in the ring with him? No. He looks like a wrestler. Grizz walks into a room. Alan's always said most of his guys will walk into a room and no one will question whether they're the wrestler. And that's what he wants. We walk to that venue. We don't have to say to the venue, oh, we're wrestlers. The venue look up and go, wrestlers? And we go, yeah. That's it. You know what I mean? We walk in, we look like a bunch of misfits. You've got Cade, you've got Grizz, you've got me, you've got Bolt. We all shake Hitch, all shapes and sizes. And Geffen, he's in hell of a shape as well. You've got Foxy, and he's up there somewhere. All of us, we all walk in and we've got that look, and you look like a wrestler. And that's how Alan has done so successful. Wrestling is all shapes and sizes. I'm not saying that you can't be small to wrestle, because clearly you can. The WWE NXT is aiming towards that faster paced guys that can do amazing stuff. Some of the stuff I've watched recently, Mark Andrews, phenomenal athlete. But you need to intermix that with Alan's shows. If you were on Alan's roster, he wouldn't want the same match duplicated, and Alan knows what he wants. I think he told me off once for doing chain. Yeah, I think he told me. I think he was. I think he might have been reffing, and I think it was Cade's idea that we did a bit of this chain. And Alan just went, "Stop that! Stop wrestling! Hit him." He said, "I don't want you to do that." He knew what he wanted. He said, "Why would you? Why are you doing chain?" So it makes sense. He knows what he wants from each individual, and most of us know what Alan wants. And that was what I learned from that. So my best matches would be with. Depends on the circumstance. For that main event match, it'd be Cade, Big Grizz. They would always be the ones that could put that big man match together. We work together, but we'll put this match together. And their minds, especially Grizz, you sit there and watch Grizz, and he's kind of looking at the floor, and I'm trying to work out what he's doing. He's seeing the match, and he's going, okay, yeah. And he'll piece it together like that. And I'm sitting there because he's worked a lot of big US names, Grizzly. He's worked Rhino, Mr. Anderson. I'm sure he's worked. He's worked. I don't know if he's worked Sabu. I'm sure he might have at some point. But he's worked a lot on the big US names as well, so he understands how they think. So again, he can visualize in it. And then you've also got the title match, which is the camp show match, which is reaction, by doing so little and making it mean so much. And you can do those type of matches really well with Bolt or Jay Russo or Sterling Gold, because they're such good characters to play off, and they know how to work the crowd, and especially in a Track of Bay where they're already established, so they're reacting to you anyway, and then that heel just needs to do that little bit, and it's just yay boo. I think I've been in Track of Bay once, maybe against Jay Russo, and we didn't touch each other for 4 or 5 minutes. They were cheering, we did yay boos. We just looked at each other. We just went to lock up. We didn't, and they kept going and going and going and going. I'm like, go on then, let's give them something. But they were and that kind of reaction to it is always a good feeling. So I've walked away matches with Cade and Grizz and gone, oh, that was something. That's that kind of like you know, in and out of something match, and I felt it good. But then I've also walked back and done a punch and a body slam. I felt amazing because of the reaction of the crowd. So it all depends on what you perceive as being a good match. You know, it should be, realistically, if the fans have enjoyed it, clearly you should enjoy it, but it's about the fans, and it's about Alan doing, you know, to giving Alan what he wants. You know, so there's no point in me doing a load of cool moves, come back and Alan goes, what are you doing? Why have you done that? It's not what I want from you. And think about it. Is that your character? And I'm going, yeah, okay, Al, yeah, you're right. So he's an amazing guy to work for. He's I don't think I've ever fallen out with Alan. I've had a few talons offs from Alan, but I think we all do. But it's his product. He's got the product where he wants it, and I kind of look at myself as being a product as well now with what I do and stuff. So I try and put that into Alan's shows. So I try and carry myself a certain way and try and put the stuff out there that is very PG and that is kid friendly and family friendly, and you know, and always be aware of myself, you know, and that my fan base is kids. So when I'm out and about and I'm walking around and kids recognise you, you take that time to do something. I always remember my friend went to see Arnold Schwarzenegger at one of these meet and greet type things. He's a massive bodybuilding fan as well, and he said the bit that sticks with him was that Arnold looked him straight in the eye, took his hand, said hi, and he said that will stick with me. He said he looked me in the eyes and he made me feel he was taking notice of me. So I always try and do the sign-ins. I'll always sign and look at not kind of go, right, okay, next. You enjoy the show, and for them it means something. So I try and do that as well if I'm out and about. You know, if I get stopped in random places, which I have, from Asda's to Forbidden Planet in Cardiff to, I think it was Birmingham, was the furthest I ever got recognised. Me and my daughter went to see the Marvel stunt show. They did the live one, and they did the Avengers, and we went down there and we were just walking through to get food from somewhere, and someone recognised me then, and that's my most random place to be recognised. So it does happen now and again. Oh, and bingo once as well. Yeah, I know.
Nice. That's someone's granny, was it?
No, it was somebody who went past and kind of like looked at me, and I was with my partner, and I think she thought the girl kept looking at me, and then she came up and she said, "Oh, look, can I have a photo with you to show my son when I go back home?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." And it's just, again, one of those random places which happens at sometimes.
Cool. It's lovely. It's awesome when that happens. Yeah, definitely. So that concludes the Rambles.
It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's good to have a little catch up with you. You know,
yeah, you too, man.
Like I said before, this is 2013, the last time we seen each other for Wrestling for Cancer in Cirencester.
Yeah, that was, I didn't realise it was that long ago. I remember that show.
Yeah, and that's when I had the wacky gimmick kind of thing, you know. Oh well.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and there was a few on that show. That was like for the last kind of I think long after that I started working for Alan.
Yeah, it was, because that was my last match, as you know, the Insane Star kind of thing. Then I packed up for a bit. Yeah. So that concludes the bit of Rambles, like I said. Thank you very much, Titan, for coming on. It's been a pleasure to speak to you and listen to your story. I've been CueBall, personally love to hate the most. Oh, also, before I go, follow Titan's Facebook, Instagram, and go and buy some of his merchandise. I'll put all the links in the description below. Stay safe, stay positive. #, yeah.